Elias Cade had never thought much about getting a companion. He was not lonely in the way most people imagined loneliness. His days were full. The research domes needed constant care. The alien plants reacted badly to small mistakes, and the Edgeworld colony always found new ways to break simple machines. Still, when the interstellar exchange program sent him the message, he paused longer than he expected. The message was cheerful and polished. It spoke about mental health, long-term isolation, and the benefits of companionship. It promised a safe, low-maintenance alien pet, approved for civilian ownership. The images showed small creatures with soft eyes and gentle movements. Elias almost laughed. He was a scientist, not a collector. But the nights on Kepri Station were long. The stars felt too far away, and messages from Earth took weeks. After 3 days of ignoring the offer, Elias finally signed the request form. He told himself it was just curiosity. Maybe a harmless being would make the quiet less heavy. 2 weeks later, a delivery pod arrived. The pod landed outside his habitat with a dull thud, sending dust across the pale ground. Elias sealed his gloves, grabbed his tablet, and walked out. The pod was larger than he expected. There were extra warning labels along its sides, written in unfamiliar alien script. That made him uneasy. The pod hissed as it unlocked. Inside, curled tightly against the metal wall, was not a small creature. She was tall, almost his height when standing. Her skin was pale with a faint silver tone, her hair long and dark, tangled like it had not been brushed in months. Her eyes were large, glowing softly in the low light, filled with raw fear. Thin fabric covered her body, clearly not meant for warmth or comfort. She flinched when she saw him. Elias froze. "This isn't right," he whispered, though no one else was there. The exchange database on his tablet tried to explain. Species, Noctari, classification, companion-grade organism. Temperament, passive. Intelligence, limited. Maintenance, low light, synthetic nutrition, restricted movement recommended. Every word felt wrong. The being inside the pod was shaking. Her hands were pressed over her ears, her breathing fast and shallow. She made a quiet sound, not quite a cry, not quite a word. Elias slowly raised his hands, palms open, showing he meant no harm. "It's okay," he said softly, unsure if she could understand him. "You're safe. I won't hurt you." The phrase felt small and weak, but it was all he had. The Noctari woman did not relax, but she stopped retreating. Her glowing eyes stayed locked on his face, watching every movement. Elias noticed faint marks around her wrists, lighter than the rest of her skin, as if restraints had been there for a long time. Anger stirred in his chest, slow and heavy. He shut the pod's door and sealed it open so it would not close again. Then he stepped back and sat on the ground, lowering himself to her level. He removed his helmet, risking the cold air to show his face clearly. "My name is Elias," he said. "I live here. You don't have to come out until you're ready." Minutes passed. The wind whispered across the colony dome. Machines hummed in the distance. Slowly, the woman shifted. Her fingers loosened their grip. She tilted her head, studying him with confusion mixed into her fear. "You are not wearing control gear," she said quietly. Her voice was soft, careful, like someone afraid of being punished for speaking. Elias' breath caught. She spoke perfect trade common. "You can talk," he said, stunned. "They said you couldn't." Her eyes widened. She pressed back again, panic rising. "Please," she said quickly. "I will be quiet, I will behave, do not send me back." "Send you back where?" Elias asked gently. She swallowed. "To the holding dark." The words were simple, but the meaning behind them felt deep and terrible. Elias stood slowly and stepped away, giving her space. He activated the habitat door and left it open. "You can come inside," he said, "or stay here, it's your choice." Choice. The word seemed to confuse her more than anything else. After a long moment, she crawled out of the pod. Every movement was careful, controlled, as if she expected pain at any second. She stayed close to the wall, avoiding the open space. Elias noticed how she flinched at bright light and dimmed the habitat panels immediately. Inside, the warmth wrapped around them. Elias prepared water and a nutrient pack meant for humans, then hesitated. He checked the Noctari dietary notes again. Synthetic energy, light-based absorption. Not blood, not flesh, not anything the stories claimed. He adjusted the lights instead, creating a soft glow. The woman watched him closely as she felt the energy settle over her skin. Her breathing slowed. "I am called Sarel," she said after a while. "Thank you for telling me," Elias replied. Silence followed, but it was different now. Not frozen, just careful. Elias reviewed the exchange program files that night while Sarel rested on a padded seat, still tense but no longer shaking. The more he read, the worse it became. Redacted sections, missing origin records. Language capability marked as non-essential, emotional responses labeled as imitative. "She's fully aware," he muttered. "They knew." Sarah watched him from across the room. "You are angry," she said quietly. "Yes," Elias admitted, "but not at you." That seemed to surprise her. In the early hours when the colony lights dimmed further, Sarah spoke again. "Are you going to train me?" Elias frowned. "Train you for what?" "To obey," she said like it was obvious. "To be pleasing, to not cause trouble." "No," Elias said firmly. "I'm not." She studied his face, searching for lies. "Then why did you request me?" He thought about that. "Because I trusted the system," he said honestly, "and the system lied to both of us." Sarah closed her eyes, absorbing the words slowly. "Humans are said to enjoy cruelty," she said. "They say you smile while others suffer." Elias felt something twist inside him. "Some humans are bad," he said, "but cruelty isn't who we are, not when we choose to be better." She opened her eyes. There was something new in them. Not trust yet, but curiosity. That night, Elias did not sleep. He drafted messages, encrypted reports, and data requests. He sent copies of the files he had found to human science networks and ethics boards. He flagged the exchange program for investigation. He did not know if anyone would listen. In the morning, he found Sarah standing near the habitat window, watching the stars fade as the artificial dawn began. She did not flinch when he approached. "Elias," she said carefully, testing his name again. "If I am not a pet, what am I?" He stood beside her. "You're a person," he said, "and as far as I'm concerned, you're my guest." For the first time since she arrived, Sarah smiled. It was small and uncertain, but it was real. And somewhere far beyond the quiet colony, a lie that had lasted generations had just begun to crack. Morning on Kepri Station arrived softly. The artificial sun rose behind the dome walls, spreading gentle light instead of harsh brightness. Elias had programmed it that way the night before, thinking of Sarah. He wanted nothing to scare her awake. Sarah did not sleep much. She sat on the padded seat most of the night, her back straight, her hands folded in her lap. Even when her eyes closed, her body stayed tense, ready to react. Sleep for her was not rest. It was something dangerous. Elias noticed this when he came out of his room. "You don't have to stay awake," he said carefully. "No one here will hurt you." She looked at him, unsure. "In the holding dark," she said, "sleep was when they changed things, memories, instructions." Elias felt a chill run through him. He did not ask for details. Some stories should be shared slowly when the person is ready. Instead, he made breakfast. Simple food for himself and soft, dim light for her. He watched as Sarah stood closer to the light source, her skin faintly glowing as she absorbed the energy. It was quiet, natural, nothing like the frightening stories he had grown up hearing. "You do not fear me," she said. "I don't," Elias replied. "I fear what was done to you." That answer made her pause. The day passed with small steps. Elias showed her the habitat, room by room. He explained what each space was for, always saying "you may" instead of "you must." Sarah listened closely, memorizing everything. Control had taught her that knowing her surroundings was a way to survive. At one point, a maintenance drone passed overhead, its lights blinking. Sarah froze, her body tightening, eyes wide. She dropped to the floor before Elias could speak. "It's okay," he said quickly, kneeling at a distance. "It's just a machine. It won't touch you." She stayed still for several seconds, then slowly lifted her head. Shame flickered across her face. "I reacted badly," she said. "No," Elias said gently. "You reacted honestly." She seemed confused by that too. Later, Elias connected to the wider human network. Messages he had sent during the night were already spreading. Scientists asked questions. Ethics boards requested more data. Some replies were cautious. Others were angry. A few tried to explain away the problem, calling it a misunderstanding of classification. Elias rejected those messages immediately. He recorded a short statement, careful with his words. He did not accuse, he presented evidence, clear images. Sarah's speech, her awareness, her fear. He sent it out and waited. While he worked, Sarah watched from a distance. "You are speaking to your kind," she said. "Yes," Elias answered. "I want them to know the truth." "Will that bring punishment?" she asked. "It might," he admitted, "but silence would be worse." She considered this quietly. In the afternoon, Sarah surprised him by asking a question. "May I see the outside?" Elias hesitated. The open world could be overwhelming, but denying her choice felt wrong. "Yes," he said, "if you want to." They stepped into the outer dome together. The sky above was a soft blue projection, hiding the harshness of space beyond. Pale ground stretched out, dotted with research domes and solar towers. Sarah shielded her eyes at first, then slowly lowered her hands. "It is wide," she said. "You're free to walk," Elias said. "I'll stay here." She took a few careful steps, then more. Each one seemed to test an invisible boundary. When nothing happened, she stopped and turned back toward him. "You are not watching to correct me," she said. "I'm watching to make sure you're safe," he replied. She nodded, as if adding this information to a growing list of strange human behaviors. That evening, Sarah spoke more than she had before. Not long stories, just pieces. She explained that the Noctari were taught from early cycles that other species feared them. That fear became control. Their long lives made them valuable. Their sensitivity to light made confinement easy. "They said obedience would keep us alive," she said. "They said resistance would bring extinction." Elias listened, fists clenched at his sides. "You survived," he said. "That matters." "Yes," Sarah agreed. "But survival without dignity is very small." Her words stayed with him long after she fell into a light sleep, curled on the padded seat, finally trusting enough to rest. During the next days, changes were subtle but real. Sarah began to move more freely inside the habitat. She asked questions about human customs, about names, about why Elias spoke kindly even when frustrated. "Kindness is a choice," he told her, "not a weakness." She thought about that often. Messages from Earth increased. A human legal group requested direct testimony. A medical ethics team wanted to confirm her species' cognitive status. Elias asked Sarah before agreeing to anything. "You can say no," he reminded her. "I want them to know," she said after a moment. "If they know, others may be freed." Her courage surprised him. The interview was conducted carefully. No bright lights, no sudden sounds. Sarah answered slowly, clearly. She spoke of false classifications, of families separated, of being told she was less than a person. When the connection ended, she looked exhausted. "You did well," Elias said. "I was afraid," she admitted. "But fear does not rule me here." That night, the Interstellar Exchange Program sent a message. It was polite, formal. It claimed a clerical error and requested the immediate return of the Noctari unit. They offered compensation. They warned of legal consequences. Elias felt anger rise again, sharp and burning. He showed the message to Sarah. "They want to take you back," he said, "but they can't force you, not without human law agreeing." Her hands shook, but she lifted her chin. "I will not go," she said. "Not again." "Then you won't," Elias said. He responded to the message with a refusal and forwarded it to every human authority already watching the case. The tone of the replies shifted after that. The situation was no longer quiet. News outlets began asking questions. Other colonists sent private messages of support. Some admitted they had accepted alien companions before, never questioning the system. Now they are questioning, Elias said softly. Cyril stood beside him, watching the stars through the dome. You fight with words, she said. Not force. Words can change worlds, he replied. She considered this, then spoke with quiet strength. If your people stand with mine, the galaxy will not remain the same. Elias looked at her, really looked at her, not as a victim or a symbol, but as a person choosing hope after fear. We'll see it through, he said. Together. And far beyond Kepri Station, other Noctari waited in silence, unaware that one frightened arrival had begun to awaken humanity's conscience. The situation changed faster than Elias expected. Within days, Kepri Station was no longer quiet. Secure channels buzzed with incoming requests. Human representatives wanted updates. Independent observers asked for permission to visit. The interstellar exchange program stopped using friendly language and started using formal warnings. Cyril noticed the tension even when Elias tried to hide it. You are carrying weight again, she said one evening as he reviewed messages. I am, Elias admitted. But it's not regret, she nodded slowly. That is good, regret feeds fear. They had developed small routines by then. Elias worked during the day and Cyril often sat nearby, reading basic human data files he had carefully selected. History, science, art, things that showed humanity as more than soldiers or traders. She absorbed information quickly, sometimes asking questions that surprised him with their depth. One morning, a message arrived marked high priority. It was from a human-led coalition council, newly formed and unofficial, but growing rapidly. They wanted proof of scale. They believed Cyril. Now they needed evidence that this was not an isolated case. Elias showed the message to Cyril and explained carefully. They want to know how many others are like you, he said. How widespread this is. Cyril's eyes darkened slightly. Many, she said. Too many to count easily. She explained that the Noctari had once kept detailed population records. Those records were taken when the classification changed. After that, Noctari were no longer counted as citizens, only as assets. Assets do not need names, she said quietly. Elias felt his chest tighten. Do you know where they are kept? Different systems, she replied. Always in low-light environments, always monitored, always told that obedience keeps the species alive. He recorded everything with her permission, dates, places, trade routes. Patterns. It painted a picture that was impossible to ignore. When the data was released, the response was explosive. Human media spread the information quickly. The word pet became a point of anger. Commentators questioned how many other species had been mislabeled. Old trade agreements were re-examined. Universities opened emergency ethics panels. Ordinary people sent messages to Elias, some apologizing, some furious, many asking how they could help. Not everyone supported him. Some corporate groups accused Elias of exaggeration. They claimed the Noctari benefited from protection. A few alien governments warned that humans were interfering in internal galactic matters. Cyril listened as Elias explained these reactions. They are afraid, she said calmly. Fear makes others loud. Yes, Elias said. But humans are listening. One evening, Cyril asked a question that surprised him. What would happen, she asked, if the galaxy learned what we truly are? Elias leaned back. What do you mean? She hesitated, then spoke carefully. The Noctari were not always powerless. Our biology allows us to survive radiation storms. Our minds adapt quickly. Long lives mean long memory. That frightened others. You're saying the stories were made to control you, Elias said. Yes, she replied. We were turned into myths. Monsters are easier to own. Elias felt a quiet pride rise inside him. Then it's time the myths ended. The turning point came with a single transmission. A Noctari signal appeared on a deep space frequency, weak but unmistakable. Another Noctari had seen Cyril's interview, then another, then many more. They began sending fragments of testimony, whispered messages, proof of intelligence, proof of suffering. The galaxy could no longer pretend. Human leaders responded publicly. They demanded immediate suspension of all companion species trade until full reviews were completed. They offered asylum to any being proven sapient and unwillingly confined. The Interstellar Council pushed back. They accused humans of emotional bias. They warned of economic instability. They suggested humans were projecting their own values onto others. Elias watched the council session live with Cyril beside him. "They are skilled at avoiding responsibility," she said. "Yes," Elias replied, "but they've never dealt with this many witnesses before." The exchange program made one final attempt. They sent a formal retrieval team to Kepri Station, claiming jurisdiction. The ship arrived without weapons visible, but its presence alone made Cyril tense. Her hands trembled slightly. "You do not have to face them," Elias said. "I will." "No," Cyril said firmly. "I will not hide anymore." They stood together as the transmission opened. A calm, official voice requested the release of property under dispute. Elias responded first. "She is not property. She is a sentient being under human protection." Then Cyril stepped forward into the camera's view. "My name is Cyril," she said clearly. "I am Noctari. I speak for myself." There was silence on the channel. "You classified us as companions," she continued. "You erased our names. You taught us fear and called it care. That ends now." The transmission was cut abruptly. The retrieval ship left orbit shortly after. News of the confrontation spread rapidly. Support for the Noctari cause surged. Other species quietly contacted human representatives, sharing similar stories. Patterns emerged. Systems that relied on silence began to fracture. That night, Cyril stood alone by the window for a long time. Elias approached slowly. "You were brave," he said. She shook her head. "I was tired of being small." "You're not small," Elias replied. "You never were." She looked at him, eyes steady. "Humans are strange," she said. "You see strength where others see danger." "We've been underestimated too," Elias said, "more than once." In the days that followed, humans coordinated rescue corridors. Legal teams prepared cases. Medical ships adjusted environments for Noctari needs. It was not perfect, and it was not easy, but it was real. Cyril began helping directly. She translated messages, identified safe signals, and comforted those still trapped in fear. "You are becoming a leader," Elias said one evening. "I am becoming myself," she answered. Far beyond Kepri Station, the galaxy shifted, not through force but through exposure, through light placed where darkness had been convenient. And for the first time in a very long time, the Noctari were no longer alone. The galaxy did not change in a single moment. It shifted slowly, like a massive structure forced to move after centuries of stillness. But once it began, nothing could stop it. Kepri Station became a symbol, not because it was powerful or important, but because it was ordinary. A small human research outpost had chosen compassion over comfort, truth over convenience. Other humans saw themselves in that choice, and many decided to act the same way. Ships arrived carrying observers, doctors, translators, and legal experts. They did not come as conquerors. They came with open hands and careful words. Every arrival was announced in advance. Every meeting asked for consent. For the Noctari, this alone felt unreal. Cyril stood at the center of it all, though she never tried to be. She spoke when asked. She listened more than she talked. She corrected misunderstandings without anger. Her calm presence did more than any argument could. Elias watched her with quiet respect. "She trusts herself now," he told one of the human coordinators. "That makes all the difference." The Interstellar Council could no longer delay. Under growing pressure, they opened a formal inquiry. Evidence from multiple systems was presented. Records long hidden were uncovered. The truth was undeniable. The Noctari were officially recognized as a fully sapient species. The announcement spread across known space. For many Noctari, the words felt unreal. Some cried. Some stayed silent, afraid to believe. Others simply stood under open light for the first time without fear of punishment. Rescue operations began carefully, not rushed. Humans had learned that freedom forced too quickly could hurt as much as chains. Safe zones were prepared. Choice was emphasized again and again. You may leave, the messages said, or you may stay, either is acceptable. That mattered. Cyril helped welcome the first group to arrive at Kepri Station. They were thin, cautious, eyes always searching for threats. She spoke to them in their own language, soft and steady. You are safe here, she told them. No one will command you. Some did not believe her at first, but they believed their own eyes. No restraints, no orders, no punishment. Elias watched as one Noctari stepped into the light and laughed quietly in surprise. That sound stayed with him. Not all reactions across the galaxy were positive. Some governments resisted. Some corporations fought back, fearing loss of profit. There were debates, accusations, and threats of economic pressure. Humanity did not respond with force. They responded with refusal. Trade agreements were paused. Partnerships were suspended. Humans made it clear that they would not participate in systems built on silence and fear. It was costly. It was uncomfortable. But it was a line they would not cross. Other species noticed. Quietly at first, then openly, several governments adjusted their own classifications. Old laws were rewritten. Long-ignored voices were invited to speak. The idea spread faster than anyone expected. Dignity was not a human concept. It was a universal one that had simply been buried. One evening, long after the busiest days had passed, Elias found Cyril sitting outside under the dim stars. The artificial sky had been turned down to show more of the real universe beyond. You could leave, he said gently, standing beside her. There are places being prepared for Noctari communities. I know, she said. You could help rebuild your civilization, he continued. Teach history, lead. She nodded. Yes. He waited, unsure where this was going. But I am not ready to go yet, she said. This place matters to me. Elias smiled softly. You're always welcome. She looked at him then, truly looked at him. You did not save me, she said. You stood with me. There is a difference. I'm glad you see it that way, he replied. Cyril had changed, but she had not forgotten who she was. She still flinched at sudden noise. She still preferred low light. Healing was not a straight path. Elias respected that. One day, a young human technician asked Cyril a question that surprised everyone. Why did you trust us? He asked. After everything you were taught, Cyril thought for a long moment before answering. Because one human chose to see me, she said. Not a story, not a myth. Me, the words spread. They were quoted in articles, lessons, and debates, not as praise but as a reminder. Humanity's reputation changed. Not because they were the strongest or the most advanced, but because when given a choice, they chose responsibility. When they discovered a wrong, they did not hide from it. They did not look away. Other species began approaching human representatives with quiet requests. Will you listen to us too? They asked. Humans answered yes more often than no. Months later, the Interstellar Exchange Program was officially dissolved. Its archives were opened. Survivors were compensated. Laws were rewritten to prevent similar systems from forming again. It was not justice for everything lost, but it was a beginning. Cyril eventually decided to leave Kepri Station for a time. She wanted to help establish a free Noctari settlement. Elias helped her prepare, gathering data and supplies. On the day of her departure, she stood at the edge of the landing platform. I will return, she said. I know, Elias replied. She paused, then added, "Not because I owe you anything, because I want to." "That means more," he said. As her ship lifted away, Elias felt the familiar quiet return. But it was different now. Not empty, not heavy. Hope had weight too. Across the galaxy, stories spread. Of humans who refused to accept easy lies. Of a species that could have taken advantage but chose respect instead. When others spoke of humanity, they no longer asked, "What will humans take?" They asked, "What will humans protect?" And for the Noctari, for Serial, and for countless others who had lived in the shadow of fear, that question changed everything. HFY. They promised him a pet. What arrived was a terrified alien vampire woman.